Welcome to the Awake Space Astrology Podcast. I'm Laurie Rivers, your host, and I'm here to give you some inspiration to help you with your aspirations. And in this episode, we're talking about astrological transits and the Aries New Moon and how to manifest with that baby. Now, I'm going to go house by house in this episode, so you want to listen to the whole thing. Don't just listen for your little bit, because you can help your friends and family understand what the heck is going on in their lives when you listen to all of the information on the podcast. You might hear some interruptions because my trusty pal Malcolm is always with me, and he has his favorite little inside barks he likes to give to notify me of any potential intruders. Not like he'd defend me or anything. But anyway, as always, we'll have patron shout outs, and hopefully the patrons are watching this on YouTube. I may have to ensure that my other laptop is plugged in. All right, for this and more, stay tuned. So we have an extraordinary new moon coming up on April 1st. It is the new moon in Aries. It is happening at 11 degrees of Aries. So you want to find your birth chart and look at where 11 degrees Aries falls. Now, if you're a patron, I want you to go into the Discord and up to astrology articles and resources at the top of the Discord and look for the intro to the natal chart post. That's a free public post, but I have it bookmarked for you guys in the Discord, so that if you have trouble finding out where these things are in your chart, you can watch those videos to get a refresher. So you want to look for where Aries is in the chart and then look for where 11 degrees is. I always suggest using astro.com because they have little tick marks, and that'll help you look for it, like 5, 10, 15, So you look for 10, the 1 tick mark, 2 tick marks, and that's about where it will fall. It's going to fall in people's charts differently, okay? So we use Placidus the way I teach. I don't like whole signs. I don't think it's accurate. There is an argument, well, it doesn't go to the poles. It does, actually. It just shows very narrow and very wide houses because it's extreme environments. So it might be that Aries doesn't start or end a house cusp in your chart. That's okay. It's called an interception. Guess what? Interceptions are activated by transits. The moon travels through each sign every month. Okay, lunar transits happen every 2.5 days. That makes them significant. The moon governs daily activities. The moon governs what happens mood-wise. It governs a lot of mundane events. If you want to know why I'm a very, very accurate astrologer, it's because instead of looking at the glitz and the glam, I'm looking at the nuts and bolts. I'm looking at the moon. The moon is causal. So is the sun, by the way. And so that is why new moons and full moons are usually pretty powerful events every single month, because the moon and the sun are making a relationship with one another. In this case, we have a new moon, which is when the moon and the sun are conjunct. Okay, that means they're sitting right next to each other. A full moon is when the moon and the sun are opposite one another, okay? And so a new moon is where we sow seeds. It's a beginning. It's where we set intentions. A full moon is where those are harvested. Now, I know it's very popular because we live in a society of immediate gratification. Most of us would have failed the marshmallow test, and go ahead and Google that if you want to know what I'm talking about. But we don't really plant seeds in one new moon and then the next full moon they're fully realized. Not if they're really good seeds. We might see some evidence in a 2-week period, but if you're really setting some juicy intentions, a lot of times it takes the full cycle to occur. And that's when the new moon then moves to full. That takes about 6 months, right? So the new moon in Aries will not have completed the incubation of those intentions truly until the full moon in Aries in the fall, when the moon is in Aries and the sun is in Libra, making it the Aries full moon. That's when these intentions will maturate and be ready for their harvest. I'm all about slow and steady wins the race. And even when it comes to Aries energy, it's all about building strong and capable. So people often talk about the impulsivity of Aries, and it can be at its lower manifestation of the energy. When you look at the more evolved layers, it can be a little bit more strategic. So I suggest you put your strategy hats on and you start making some pretty strong intentions when it comes to fresh starts, being open to new ideas, being ready to put yourself out there in new ways, having personal development, new self-awarenesses, because those are all Aries-like themes, being more assertive. Assertiveness is not aggression. Aries doesn't always have to be aggressive. Aries energy can be really, really sweet, very faithful and very kind. It just depends on how someone expresses that energy, and that gets into some pretty complicated explanations that I'm not going to do here on the podcast. But when I teach about it, I go into a lot of the nuances. So what does the Aries new moon hold for you? You're like, yeah, Laurie, that's nice, but what am I going to manifest? So if the Aries new moon, which is falling at 11 degrees, okay, 11 degrees, is falling in your first house, then it is all about how you see yourself, your sense of self, your identity. It could be you want a makeover, you might want to make some wardrobe changes, you might want to change your physical appearance. Those are some of the lighter expressions, and those are things that you could do pretty easily, and that doesn't really need to wait till October. But the deeper side of that for that first house would be self-actualization, really, freeing yourself to be more in line with your authentic being. And sometimes people think when they're, especially Aries risings, when they're really super assertive and go-getters and ready for the fight, that they're being authentic because that's Aries. But I'm going to argue when you're really ready for the fight, you're operating off of social conditioning because you had to be a scrapper to survive as a kid. You had people saying that you were, maybe a little too much or a little too impulsive. And so you're ready for the defense. I really wrote about these things in the last set of horoscopes for the Pisces moon because we were talking about what needed to be released before the new moon in Aries. And in order to grab hold of the next thing, you have to let go of that thing in your way. So if you've got an Aries rising and the new moon is hitting your first house, you may want to be looking at what part of yourself do you want to align in with most? What does it mean to be fully, authentically realized as a person? Now, you're not even going to complete that in a lifetime, but you can certainly make some great inroads, and that's where I would look at setting intentions. And I'll be writing about this on Patreon as well for the Aries moon horoscopes. So you're not all on your own. You've got some training wheels here to help set those intentions. Now, if this is happening in the second house, we're looking at security. Yeah, everybody likes to look at abundance. Everybody thinks abundance is actually money, and it can be. But how about self-worth? How about feeling worthy and deserving? What would it be like to not second guess? What if you stopped being afraid of losing? What if you actually looked at how you could gain more? What if you could, for yourself, what if you didn't have to bargain with the universe? What if you didn't have to constantly deal with self-doubt or feeling undeserving? What if it didn't have to be a fight? How could you make these things easier for yourself? How could you soothe yourself? Those are all things I'd look at if the new moon was happening in my second house. Then we look at the third house, and the third house is how we communicate to meet the needs to keep the physical body alive. And communication isn't just ideas and thoughts. It's also how we move, how we do our errands. It's basically communicating. There's nonverbal and there's verbal. And Aries third house can have some very, very strong opinions, and there's nothing wrong with strong opinions. But again, are you ready for the fight? Are you really needing to stand in my truth? Or can you just speak what you believe is true without concern of threat, without worrying about what's going to come back at you, with being able to meet what is possibly going to be a kerfuffle? If you stop expecting that, what would happen? How could you speak what was important to you? A lot of people are talking about Lady Gaga and her support of Liza Minnelli at the Oscars, and I think that's great. She's got Venus in Aries in the third house, okay? And actually, this new moon might touch her Venus. I think her Venus is at 13. I've done her chart. So I did a video about it. You'd have to scroll way back because I think it's from 2020 on TikTok. But she doesn't really think about how she speaks in defense of others. It's the impulse is to speak about her values. Now, it just depends on what planets you've got going on there natally. But you might want to think about, how you can more authentically communicate, and transportation as well. Maybe you need a new phone, maybe you need a new car. Those types of things on the physical level would fit into the third house as well. The fourth house is home and family. And so Aries on the fourth house cusp tends to mean you kind of had to raise yourself as a kid, okay? But as an adult, it's up to you to be your own home, okay? It doesn't mean you're always going to be alone. It doesn't always mean that you won't have other people around you. It doesn't even mean that you don't have family, but you may have, for whatever reason, had to kind of raise yourself and set your own rules and set your standards. So as an adult with car keys and a job, mostly, you get to set your environment. You tend to be very particular about that environment and what you want to have. And so for you, this is a time to take a look at, do you want to buy a house? Do you want to move? Do you need a new apartment? Maybe you need to do some home repairs. Maybe you're looking at relocating, those types of things. Maybe you're looking for an environment that's a better authentic fit. Maybe you're seeing where you've sold yourself short and you haven't let yourself have what you wanted. And so it's time to set some intentions around this. Some of those bigger things like moving, relocating, buying a home, or just shifting apartments, any of that would be something that would be a good long-term intention. On the short term, it could be maybe you just want to make some cosmetic changes. Maybe you do need new sheets. Maybe you need some new throw pillows. All of that kind of fun stuff will come up with that. When it comes to Aries fifth house, this is about creative self-expression. You might be wanting to try new ways of putting yourself out there. This is anything to do with performance. And it's you're the performance, you're the art, you're because it's Aries, right? So it's your natural talents, and you might want to be creating new material or looking at how you could do that material differently. If you have kids, you might be, or maybe you want kids, this is a good new moon to take a look at, hey, do I want kids? If I do, how am I going to plan that out? What intentions can I set? If you have kids, you might have some intention. Maybe you need more alone time. Maybe you need some help with the kids, or maybe you want to have more time with the kids. Everybody's different, right? So when it comes to creativity, set some intentions around doing these things with levity and joy, because the fifth house is about fun and joyfulness, playfulness. And so don't make it so heavy. It's not life and death. It really isn't. Sixth house is work, health, and service. If the Aries new moon is falling in your sixth house of work, health, and service, then you're looking at your daily routine. You're looking at your work schedule. Thing about Aries on the sixth house is if you're not aligned with what you do for a day job, you're not going to last there very long. As in somebody could not give you a dump truck load worth of money to make you stay in something that doesn't align with you. Whether it's a moral alignment or even work environment, you need a very good work environment that matches up with your own ideals. And so if you're not happy with your job, this is a great time to start putting your intentions down for finding a better position that's more aligned. You might even want to try to own your own business. I don't suggest jumping off a cliff to start. Anybody who suggests people should just quit their jobs to go start something is selling something, and it's usually pretty expensive at the cost of your own well-being. So it's really good to just, set your intentions, get a little strategic with what you want when it comes to that daily routine. It might be that you have some health things you need to look at. You might be getting headaches. Maybe you're stressed out. If you don't like your job and you're getting headaches, that's a big sign. So those are all areas that might be impacted if you have the moon in Aries, the new moon in Aries, transiting that sixth house for you. When we look at the seventh house, this is about where we commit our time, energy, and resources to people one-on-one. And these are close people. This is a best friend, a business partner, or a spouse. Somebody, it could be a significant other that you have a deep commitment to. This isn't the boyfriend or girlfriend or the them from that you're dating in the fifth house, which, by the way, dating is fifth house activities as well. And it's not necessarily love. Love is second house. That's about values and feeling secure. Seventh house is about commitment and agreement. That could also be projects. Okay. There's plenty of people in the arts and entertainment industry that I've read for that their work shows up in the seventh house. It is not always marriage. Okay. That is a very, I would say outdated view, but also it's a modern view because the side of marriage from traditional astrology that the seventh house covers is where they took two warring houses and married them together to form an alliance to stop a war, and that's why it's also the house of known enemies. I always find that hilarious because you knew who was trying to off you. You didn't have to look real hard. So that's the seventh house. So it's about where we're putting our time, commitment, and energy, resources into somebody else. And so this is where you, most often, you're going to be a Libra rising. It can be really easy to lose yourself in a relationship. It can be really easy to lose your identity. You might overgive, or you might be trying to make somebody be more like you, get them to change. It's not going to happen, okay? So you want to set your intentions for you, not the other person. You can't intend for somebody else, Libra rising. Do you hear me? No matter how hard you love, no matter how much you give, you cannot make somebody be their best selves, okay? You cannot love someone into being their best self. You just cannot. They have got to be willing to do that. That means they have to set their intentions. So this new moon, your assignment is to set your intentions on how you want to commit your time, your energy, that part of you that is in agreement with someone else or a project. Okay. And again, this could be your best friend. This could be a business partner. This could be a significant other or a project. It could be that you need to, especially like clients fall into the seventh house as well. How are those agreements with your clients going? Set your intentions around that. Eighth house. Eighth house is the shared resources side of those commitments. We're looking at taxes. We're looking at inheritances. We're looking at debt. And anytime we owe something or something is owed us, that's an eighth house matter. Eighth house is not your death, okay? It really isn't. It's how you grieve other people, okay? And so Or situations, like if you quit a job, you grieve that. If you leave a marriage, you grieve that, or any relationship. Things change. Something in life changes. Even if it's a positive change, you'll still have an element of grieving. And the 8th house shows us how we do that and how we transform as people from those intimate relationships, those close agreements, those contracts that we have in life. And so it's also the occulted, that which is hidden. It's the secrets. It's the known psychology, okay? The 12th house is the subconscious. The 8th house is the known psychology. So where do you need to heal up? What do you need to transmute? What can you do with your intuition as far as like working with the occulted subjects? This is a less spiritual and more mundane application of your intuition. So if you want to read oracle cards or start connecting to your clairs, this would be the 8th house. Okay, it's a very natural space. It's not supernatural. It's not it's within your wiring as a human being, and every human being is wired to transform and change if they choose. So if you want to get more connected to your clairs, if you want to get more connected to really seeing yourself in a new way through the lens of what you've learned through relationships, okay? And don't just take the pity party route. I don't want to see your intentions be like, all by myself. Don't do that. Don't do that to you. Look at how you can grow and transform so that you can go on adventures in the 9th house. The 9th house is all about expanding experiences. And if you've got Aries on the 9th house, you don't study anything or go anywhere that doesn't interest you personally. You're very driven to have interesting experiences, but you have to line up with them. And you might have some real strong rules about what it is that you do to expand. So you may be like, you might not travel somewhere because you don't like the politics or the policies, or maybe you really want to see something, but at the same time, maybe you have some real strong ideals about like the environment. You don't want to impact it in a bad way, so you'll find other ways to meet that need. This is teacher-preacher energy when we're looking at the 9th house. It's also production of all kinds. So if writing is in the 3rd house, you get the ideas for a story in the 3rd house. The publishing of them is in the 9th house. The same goes for production, film production, theater productions, talks, teaching, protolizing. It could be, you have your own personal dogma. And so if you're not living in alignment with your beliefs, you might want to set some intentions around that. If you want to be offering courses or writing books, publishing books, these are times to set your intentions on these things. If you want to do some interesting travel to expand your awareness, to come more into yourself, this is also the place you want to set those intentions for this new moon. That leads us to the 10th house, which is really, we can see career in it, but most people don't really have careers. Most people have day jobs that they want to retire from. The 10th house is really our avocation. It's where we are in our power, and that is something that is granted to us. People see you as a real individual. They actually just really like your surety. Now, certain authority figures may not like that at all. They may not like it at all. They may think you're a little much, and it is not their opinion you need to be focusing on. You want to focus on the people who are like, whoa, I wish I was brave enough to do that, because people see you as brave. You may not see you as brave. They see you as brave. And so you want to look at being totally aligned with how you're interacting with the world and authority figures. If you're not happy at work, you can look at changing your job with a 10th house transit. Again, it's kind of career, but it's so much more than what any of us consider careers. It's an avocation. It's a calling. And if you've been called to something, to be more of yourself, a lot of times when I see people with a 10th house in Aries, they're very entrepreneurial, not just because they don't deal well with authority figures, but because they want to self-actualize. They want to build things for themselves. And so other people can be inspired by that. And you may not see what they're inspired by because you probably got in trouble as a kid for being strong-minded and kind of having your own sense of direction. And grown-ups don't always like that in children. But as an adult, other people may find you absolutely fascinating. And so that's something to pay attention to. Just sit down and do some intention writing for being lined up with how you put yourself out there in the world. This is also a good time if you do own a business to look at your branding. Then we go to the 11th house, and the 11th house is hopes, dreams, inspiration, aspiration, networks, and associations, your community. How can all of that be in one house? Well, it's pretty simple. We don't meet our ambitions in the 10th house without a good network. Nobody makes it alone, and when somebody goes rogue, they find out pretty quickly how much they can fall from grace, because remember, our legacy isn't something we demand the world give us. It's something bestowed upon us by other people. They perceive us and they bestow a legacy to us on how we impacted them. So the 11th house helps make the 10th house work. And it also helps it feeds into the 12th house, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The 11th house, if you want to be more inspired, if you've been going through a dry spell, if you need to build a new network or get involved in new community endeavors, this is a great one for you. With Aries on the 11th house, you tend to rock it a little more solo. You like to create and operate in groups, but you only work with people who are aligned. You don't have a lot of patience for fools. And so if you've been having some trouble, especially, we've had the pandemic and we still do have the pandemic, so do be careful out in public. Keep wearing your masks. But if you've been having trouble forming good alliances, this is a wonderful opportunity to write down your intentions when it comes to building good community ties, being involved in community, building a new professional network, and even making just new friends that fit the person you are today. Nobody is the same person they were in 2020, okay? Actualizing people are always growing, but everyone had a crash course in self-actualization back in 2020. And the people who didn't grow are going to really feel it over the next couple of years. But for everybody who even question anything remotely about how they live their lives, you might have outgrown some of the social ties that you had and need to make new ones. This is the time for that 11th house to write down the intentions around your social networks, your internet usage, and meeting people online as well as offline. Also, if you've been more creative and you've had a dry spell, this is the time to really write those intentions down, to be open to the inspiration. And then we have the 12th house. Now, those hopes, dreams, and inspirations, they feed into the 12th house, which is the house of dreams. It's where we're connected to our source, or the greater part of ourselves that is less embodied. Some people call it the house of illusion, delusion, and suffering. Yeah, because when we're not in alignment with our actual selves, we suffer. Okay, when we're living somebody else's life, when we're completely forced to be someone we're not, we suffer. But when we can align in, and that's not some magical, mystical frickin' thing, when we can align into our actual self, when we can line that up, it's just like lining up your tires on a car. You're just moving yourself into you and being all of you and seeing that you are a spark of divine creation. All right, we're all little sparks of the same big creation. And when we forget that, there is suffering. Okay, so remembering that part, because the 12th house is the space of incubation. It's where those hopes, dreams, aspirations go to boil and bubble in a cauldron, to be birthed anew in that first house, where we assert ourselves in the world, right? Where we can make connection with other people, where we can find collaborative effort, where we can shape things with our hands. So if you want to be more in tune more in tune with your higher self. And by higher self, I don't mean it's better. It's the greater part of us. Our souls don't ever get damaged. That kind of theology is very controlling. It makes us want to be good people and please, 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 I'll be good. And that's not what it's about. That's controlling us. You want to connect into the part of you that remembers it's part of the universe. And again, like I wrote in the Pisces moon forecast, in order to have something come to us, we have to let go of the thing in our hands. So if I'm holding a sandwich and I want to get my drink of water, I have to put the sandwich down, or at least one of my hands has to let go to grab the next thing. So you don't have to do a big ceremony to release. You just have to get clear about, how do you want to feel next? What would ease or peace be like? When I was in my Saturn return, and it was one of the many parts of the healing journey I was on, my therapist at the time said, what do you want? And I was just like, I just want peace. I just want to know what peace is, because I had no idea what internal peace felt like. And once I got it, I was kind of bored, because when you're used to fight or flight all the time, that internal peace was like, I don't know what to do with this. It's like, oh. And it took several years to touch that for the first time, to touch that peace and know what it was. So it can take a minute, but you can't get there if you don't set intentions. So, think of a time where you felt a little bit peaceful. Maybe you were sitting by the beach and watching the waves roll in. Maybe you were, hiking up some rocks. Maybe you were running or jogging and you just got in the zone. The zone, or the flow state, is an aligned state. So set your intentions on that. So that's how the Aries new moon is going through the houses. And if you're going to manifest anything, this is where you're going to have the best effects. Remember, manifestation starts with intention, and then we align our actions to meet it. Now, it's easy enough to talk about this. It's another thing to do it. And that's why, again, the mystery school starts in April. We're fast and furiously working on this. I've talked about training your Mercury, and that's your mind, right? We've had our minds conditioned to make us feel small, incapable. Billions of dollars are spent every year to make you feel incapable at doing basic things like cooking and feeding yourself and doing basic tasks that humans have been doing since we've been on the planet, which is a long time. And we've evolved these skills over time. But billions of dollars is spent in marketing to make you feel like you're not pretty enough, strong enough, appealing enough, kind enough, nice enough, smart enough, whatever. They go for the weakness. And when you're self-actualizing, you're training your Mercury to unpack all of that and then find an authentic expression of yourself. And that's the core curriculum at the Mystery School. Helps you train your Mercury so you can really find that authentic self in a way that's gentle. It's non-triggering. It doesn't set off alarm bells. It's not saying anything about your social or cultural programming is bad. It's just having you decide through a process, a reiterative process that helps you decide who you are and how you want to be, and you can change that at any time. It's a fluid experience, and it's really powerful. So I'm super, super duper excited to be able to bring that to you guys. The upper tier patrons will get the first look at it once we get everything together, and then in late April we'll open it up as its own membership level on Patreon. So I'm very, very excited about that. And that's one of my intentions with this new moon in Aries is to further actualize through creativity, because it's happening right in my 5th house. So maybe we'll see more creative stuff from Laurie. Just checking in. So hey guys on TikTok, hey on YouTube. So that was the first segment of the podcast. We're going to be talking about transits coming up in the next segment. I'm going to take a little break from the podcast and drink a little beverage and come back to it and chat to you guys here. So we'll be right back with some Patreon shout outs, I think, in the next segment. All right, it's time for my favorite part of the podcast. We're talking about the patrons. It is time for patron shout outs. This podcast wouldn't be possible without the support of the Awake Space Patreon patrons. I should come up with better names for you guys. Maybe I should call you like my little Stardusters or something. I don't know. That sounds ridiculous, but we'll figure a name out for patrons. But anyway, you have my deepest gratitude because again, without you, this podcast wouldn't happen. And this is where I have a lot of fun, just talking astrology and how we can make it applicable to our daily lives and sometimes talking about the mundane as well. So, without further ado, we have a lot of new patrons. We've got Colette, we've got Casey, we've got Madison, we've got Vanessa Not Found. I like that. Brittany, we've got Nat. Trying to read, sorry, my contacts are Salome, Julie, Posil, Kim, Alana, Trevor, Jack, Lisa, Maria Isabel, Kenna, Ashita, Sitali, Julia, Savannah, Katie, or Caddy, Val, Leah, Maria, Jennifer, Ashley, Techno Bliss, Veronica, Marissa, Albany, Ingrid, Trudy, George, Katie, S. Leanne, Anna, Regine, Sarah, Warakanya, Tracy, Chantil, Denny, Allison, Shelby by the Shore, Andy, Lizzie, Elizabeth, and Ayana. Thank you so much for being our newest patrons, and I hope you're in the Discord. Make sure you introduce yourself. And hey, what I really loved is we had some older members of the Discord, older patrons, reintroduce themselves because we keep growing, and so it's a popping community. It's an amazing community, one I'm very, very proud to be a part of. I know I created it, but a group is only as good as its members, and you guys are amazing. You're inspiring. There has been some beautiful support shown by members towards other members. So we talk about astrology and all its guys, and remember that astrology is reflective of life. And just like I talked about at the top of the show, on one particular day, you can have somebody having the best freaking day of their life, and another person feels like it's never going to be okay again. And what I love is that can happen on our Discord, and people both celebrate and support and commiserate and show each other respect and kindness, and just see each other as humans. And you couldn't ask for anything better than that when we live in times like these. And it will continue to be uncertain times for some time to come. That's just the world as it stands during these big global world transits. And remember, the transits are global. They happen all over the place. I draw my charts for Los Angeles because I'm in Southern California, okay? But they're global transits. And that's what we're going to talk about next. We're going to talk about transits. So, you have a natal chart. So if you go to some website or put it into an app, please don't use CoStar, because CoStar is responsible for 90% of the bullshit astrology out there, and it's not a good app. It's a bunch of techno bros basically taking advantage of a popular topic, basically. That's what it is. So Time Passages, I don't get any kickbacks. Okay, guys, Time Passages is a decent app. I like going to astro.com, and if you are a patron, you have access in the Discord. It's a quick access to the intro to the natal chart, 3-video free course I have up on Patreon. If you're not, I will try to make sure I get that blog post actually linked into my snip feed, because it's a public post on my Patreon to help people make their chart and start taking a look at it so they can kind of understand what the lines and squiggles are. So I'll get that linked up. Maybe I'll do that tonight. We'll see what I get done tonight, because I still have to write horoscopes, because why not go for broke? But I got a lot of readings tomorrow, so if I don't get it written tonight, it's not going to happen. So you have your natal chart. It is a slice of time and space, okay? It is a map of a particular moment in time and in space that represents you. It is static. It doesn't change, okay? I don't want to hear, what about progressions? Just leave progressions alone for a minute, because they don't change the birth chart. You never lose the birth chart, okay? So we're not going to talk about progressions right now. We're not talking about progressions right now, okay? So we're talking about natal charts. I'm getting tired, and my Gemini Venus gets a little goofy. But we're talking about natal charts, and natal charts are static. How you express the energy of your consciousness, that changes, okay, with maturity, with time, learning experiences, and because we have things called transits. So if you look up today's astrology, the transits of today, you would note at this time of night, it's like 9:48 p.m. Pacific. The moon is still in Pisces. The sun is in Aries. Mercury is in Aries. Venus is in Aquarius. Mars is in Aquarius. Jupiter is in Pisces. Saturn is in Aquarius, Uranus is in Taurus, Neptune is in Pisces, and Pluto is in Capricorn. Okay, that's today's, and I can't give you their exact degrees because I'm not looking at a phone, because all of my devices are in use right now, which is pretty funny, which actually is very gratifying to me. I like that all of my devices are all on at the same time, because that's very cool. I am a techno nerd, and this is awesome. So, you would take your chart, okay? You would take your chart, and if you can see me, my hand is up. So those of you watching me on camera, your chart is here, and the transits go outside of that, okay? So the planets keep on moving. Time keeps on slipping, slipping, slipping into the future. That's what they're talking about. The planets keep moving, okay? And in the transit class, I'm going to teach you about the speed of the orbits and how fast things move. So that's why you'll be like, why does Laurie write so many horoscopes? Well, because the moon changes signs every 2.5 days. It goes through a full lunar cycle from new to new every month. Every month. And so it every month goes through all the signs, okay, and 8 phases, okay. We talk about that in Living by Luna, okay, and we'll talk more about that in Living by Luna this coming month in April. So, I digress. So that transits go outside the wheel. So that's why I'm always telling you, find the house with whatever sign we're talking about. So if we're talking about Aries for the new moon, you'll look at your chart, you'll look for the symbol for Aries, the glyph for Aries. Remember, a glyph is a symbol, and that's the ram's horn. So it looks like a curly QV, and you're going to find that. It doesn't matter if you don't have any planets there, okay? It doesn't matter if it's sandwiched inside of a house, okay? It doesn't matter, guys. It doesn't, okay? It just matters you find freaking Aries. It's there, I promise. Everybody has all 12 signs in their charts. That's how astrology works. Okay? Everybody has it. Empty houses are only apparently empty. They're not really empty. They have energy residing within them, and they are further activated by transit. So like, I don't have anything in my 5th house. Okay? I don't have anything in my 5th house. It's Aries. I have nothing in my 5th house. The new moon further activates. But I still, guess what? I have kids. Okay? I have kids. I am very expressive. I'm very creative. I identify with what I create. In fact, I tend to be my creativity. Okay? Whatever I do it my own damn way. Usually back-asswards. And so setting intentions in that to basically that transit, like when we're talking about the new moon, that transit, stuff is going to happen in that area of life anyway. Setting intentions means you're deliberately hitting your surfboard and riding that cosmic wave on purpose instead of letting the wave catch you. Okay. So it's just being more deliberate in your purpose. So when you know about transits, like, for example, when the sun is moving through your 8th house, you might have lower vitality than when the sun is transiting your 1st house. You'll notice there's different times a year that you have more energy than others. And everybody's energized at a different time of year. Well, pay attention to where is the sun, where is Mercury, where is the moon transiting on different days. You'll notice some days you're up, some days you're down, some days you're kind of neutral. That we teach about that in Living by Luna. It's a consciousness development exercise. So that's pretty exciting. So in the transit class, I'm going to walk you through understanding the difference between your natal placements. Like, I'm not going to teach you how to read your natal placements. You should already know that. But the difference between that energy and transit energy. Because transit means moving. Okay? It means moving. I'm looking at TikTok. I'm looking at you, TikTok. I'm looking at you. Transit means moving. Yeah, it does. And so it's important information because I get asked on TikTok all the time, are you talking about my natal chart or my daily chart? And I'm like, you don't have a daily chart. You have a natal chart, and then there are daily transits that impact your natal chart, okay, that influence the natal chart. But the natal chart does not change, does not change, does not change, does not change. I'm clapping at the cameras. But I get so serious about it all. But it's frustrating me. I could be silly sometimes, but it's true. It's true. You just understand your natal chart is a fixed time. It's a fixed slice of time and space. Okay, that's you. You carry the astrological weather of when you were born. Okay? You carry that weather within you. The other great thing about understanding how fast the planets move by transit would help you not put your charts up in public and just scratching out your name and date of birth, because a really good astrologer, well, actually any decent, half decent astrologer can look at your chart and know what year and month and day you were born, okay, and where. We can figure it out, okay? We can tell by the planets. When people are like, how do you know when I was born? I'm like, because when somebody will be like, my Uranus and my Pluto are in Virgo. And I'll be like, so you were born in the mid-60s, weren't you, baby? And they're like, oh, how do you know? Because I'm an astrologer. I know, that's the asshole response, but it's the truth. It's like, that's my job. I'm supposed to know those things. I don't expect everybody to know that, but you can easily look it up, even if you don't have everything memorized. You really can look it up easily. So when you put your charts up on Reddit, which is I think it's like the blind leading the blind. I used to be on Reddit a lot answering questions there, and I just haven't had time. I kind of want to make an Awake Space subreddit so we can offer some like decent information to people. But people throw their charts up there, and then they get some of the worst advice I've ever seen. There's some good astrologers on there too, though. I saw like a handful of good astrologers who, like myself, are like, oh my God, we must save these people from themselves. Because it's great, people are excited about it, but because astrology gets made fun of, the problem with that is people don't take it seriously, and so they just pass stuff off as BS, and just, it's why you get all those people going, if you have something in the 8th house, it means that you're going to die a horrible death. You should be worried. No, don't be, because it's not true. The 8th house, it's the house of transitions. It's the house of alchemy. It's how we change, and it is how we grieve, and we only grieve as deep as we love. It's a very transformative space. It shows how we deal with death. Lot less about our death than it is other people's. In order to calculate someone's demise, you really need a lot of information. And no, I don't teach it. In fact, I wasn't taught it. The tradition in which I was taught is your mentor, if you pester them enough, they'll give you clues, and then you have to do your own damn research. And I think that's fair enough. Some of us have worked our behinds off. Speaking of apprentices, I want to give a big shout out to Mackenzie, also known as McDubs. She is my apprentice, and she just passed her first exam with me in flying colors. I gave her a chart of somebody I know, who I know wouldn't mind me using the chart, and she read it cold and did a beautiful analysis, both written and verbal, and she is ready for chart number 2. And pretty soon I'm going to have her join me in a couple natal readings, and have her observe me in my process, and then I will have her contribute after that as well. And then Mackenzie will be reading as well. So it won't just be me. We're going to have more and more well-trained astrologers available to give in-depth readings, and they'll only be through my stamp of approval. I can be picky, but let me tell you, that was some of the best analysis I've seen in a really, really long time, and she just nailed it. So, Mackenzie, I do not hand out compliments, and you are amazing, and I am so grateful you've come into my life as my very first cosmic surfer, and you have a special place in my heart, because you are going to just do amazing things for the world of astrology as you get deeper and deeper down the rabbit hole. Well, this has been a pretty long podcast. Well, maybe it hasn't, but I feel pretty complete. Once again, you can follow the link in the description to join Patreon, which that would be welcome. Stay tuned for more information about the Mystery School, where you're going to learn about how to train your Mercury, as well as other metaphysical subjects. I'll be teaching some energy work. We've got teachers coming in to teach about tarot, muscle testing, which is an amazing way of testing your own yeses and nos. And I'll have on my teachers come on as guests as we get closer to that, and you'll get to know them and more about the Mystery School as we go along. Big thanks to Rita and Vanessa for working behind the scenes on the graphics for the landing pages, etc. And to all of my mods, Chris, who is my admin with the mostest. I don't know what I would do without Chris. She keeps me honest and on time, and handles the links. Of course, McDubs, my apprentice, Casey, just another person who keeps me on my toes, I tell you, and is an amazing writer and cohort, and will be another fine astrologer. Rita, of course, is one of our metaphysical mods, and she's an amazing social media and design expert and is immensely helpful, especially since she's also a metaphysician and has a metaphysical background just in her family. Very cool. We go to Kathy. Kathy is Sisterlek. She is our hostess with the mostest, and she's going to be our editor-in-chief for the Cosmic Tide, which is going to be the Mystery School newsletter. We're hatching all kinds of fun plans with this. And then we've got... we've got Molly. Molly makes Malcolm bark. She sends him thoughts, and he loves her. But Molly is our very, very intuitive mod, and she is definitely one of our best cheerleaders, and she is a loving being who we love very much. And we also have Shane. He is one of our conversation starters, and he is an extremely thoughtful person. I've got him studying some mundane astrology right now. And we have Moo Jen. Jen. I love Jen. Jen gave me webhooks, and Jen set up the bot. And even though it has been evil and been giving really awful tarot readings, and I fired it, but it didn't go away. But anyway, we got a big shout outs to Jen, our newest mod, and make sure you say hi to her. She was hugely participatory in the How to Read Your Birth Chart class. I really loved how she organized study groups, and we'll get more of that going as well. So much love, guys. Make sure if you're in the Discord, you send love to the mods, because they do a heck of a job, and they helped me out a lot, and I appreciate them, and I appreciate all of you. So without further ado, I think we're done for this episode. I'll think more about what we'll cover in the next one. These are usually done on my whim and my whimsy, so thank you for tuning in. I'm Laurie Rivers, and this is the Awake Space Astrology Podcast.